A new bill looking to change when you head to the polls for local elections. We'll talk with the sponsor of the bill and how this could help with voter turnout. Hello and welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray in Albany. Lawmakers are discussing a new bill now that changes when a number of local elections would take place. The bill would push some local elections and have some of them take place during even-numbered years. Same year, we have the larger statewide federal elections and the national elections. Supporters of the bill point out that voter turnout is much higher for presidential or congressional races that are held on those even-numbered years. They say that the change would help the smaller local races. However, opponents don't like it. They argue that the larger races will then take precedence and take the focus away from those local races and the local issues they're campaigning on.
I always feel odd year elections should be about local elections. And if you put them on even years, they'll match up with state and congressional races. They'll match up with every 4 years, match up with the presidential race. And those local issues that usually are what those elections are about will be washed away by national issues.
Joining us now is the sponsor of the legislation, State Senator James Skoufis, representing the 42nd District. James, thanks for coming on today.
Pleased to be with you.
For those watching all over the state who don't have their congressional map taped to their refrigerator, as I would, of course, because being in news, where is the 42nd District that you represent?
We're here in the Hudson Valley, Orange County specifically.
Got you. Let's talk about this bill. I'm hearing somebody in my head saying if it's not broke, don't fix it. But is it broken right now? Do we need to sort of shift some of these elections from odd to even years?
Yeah, anyone who doesn't think that the current system of odd year elections is broken really isn't paying attention. We need to fix it because it is broken. And you just have to go back 3 weeks to see just how broken it is, where you had 20 or 30% turnout per usual in these odd year elections. So a small minority of eligible voters coming out and choosing who should be running the town's offices, the county's offices for the entire community, 100% of the community. And so the bill is very simple. Move these elections to even years where you can see 70, in some places 80% turnout, especially in presidential races, and expand the number of voices, have the very large majority of the community weigh in deciding who's running their towns and counties.
One of the criticisms is this is going to drown out all the local politics and the local issues. It'll get big-footed by presidential stuff, the Biden-Trump stuff, the congressional stuff. What do you say to that?
I say it's baloney. If your concern is local issues aren't getting the attention they deserve, how could they be getting the attention they deserve if only 20% of people are voting in those races? They would get far more attention if you have 70, 80% of eligible voters casting ballots in those local races. They are not getting the attention they deserve now. And so that's in part why we have to change when these elections are happening.
I've seen one criticism saying, well, this is probably going to help the Democrats. You got a Democrat sponsoring the bill. I mean, if you sponsored a bill saying we want more sunshine, I'm sure somebody would be against it. But the fact that you have a D in front of your name and you want this, should I be reflecting if I have an R in front of my name saying, wait, what's he trying to do? He's trying to help his party. What do you say to that?
I say that you have a bunch of partisans who are attempting to protect their little fiefdoms, protect the status quo, because the status quo is what got them elected. And here's the reality. If you had even year elections for town and county races, last year in 2022, in the gubernatorial election, Lee Zeldin did extremely well outside of New York City. In fact, Republicans down ballot, if this bill was already in place and law, Republicans running for town and county races down ballot would have done exceedingly well. And so the suggestion that this is some partisan attempt to give one party or another a leg up is just on its face completely incorrect. Here is also the reality. If you have Republicans who are out there shouting those suggestions that you just described, I point them to their very own voters in their very own party. The Siena College came out with a poll about a month and a half, 2 months ago, that asked the question whether the average New Yorker supports moving these local elections to even years with presidential and gubernatorial elections. Democrats support it, independents support it, and a plurality of Republicans support this measure. And so it really is just these ivory tower office holders who want to protect the status quo and how they themselves got to office. It's a selfish move, and it doesn't even reflect the will of Republican voters in New York State.
And researching before this interview, I saw one line that jumped out at me. It said that young, poor, non-whites are less likely to vote in the odd number of years. Do you find that to be accurate? And would this, in a way, help get them more inclusive in what's going on, not just nationally, but locally for them? Because whether it's an issue of getting to the polls because of jobs or whatever, where do you land on that?
Yeah, the data is very clear that young voters, for whatever reason, and we can speculate what those reasons are, for whatever reason, they do not vote as often in local races as they do in even numbered years. And similarly, if you are lower income, you also do not vote in your odd local elections as you do in even years. Now, everybody drops off, whether you're white or rich or poor, or person of color, young, old, everyone drops off between even years and odd years. But there is bigger drop off if you are a younger voter and if you are a lower income voter. And they should absolutely have their voices heard in who's running their town and county as well.
I want to ask you one loaded question, and it's a little ordering off the menu here, but if we had voting much more available, you had a month to vote, it made it easier to vote, mailing in, maybe we're not quite to the security-wise where people would trust an iPhone, I guess, but if we're going in that direction, might that remedy the situation beyond just having to move it to even-numbered years, where people have a wider path where they can get a vote in? And speaking of the poor, the non-white, where they say, yeah, I can vote now because they're making it easier.
Yeah, I don't know that the duration, the window by which people can vote is the solution to this problem, because we do have early voting now. And people have well over a week to be able to cast their ballot. And so I don't know that the duration is the issue. Now, I do support, I think Election Day should be a national holiday. I even think that we should contemplate making Election Day a weekend, if not a national holiday. So there are things that we can do to make elections more accessible, no question about it. But if we're talking about getting from 20-30% to 70-80%, really the solution is syncing up these elections. People come out and they're motivated to vote for president, and they're just not as motivated for whatever reason, or it's not on their radar, or the information just doesn't get to them as readily, because when they turn on CNN or Fox News or MSNBC is obviously not covering their town supervisor's race. And so we have to leverage those races that are higher profile, that bring people out to vote, that lends a very easy opportunity for someone just down the ballot to also be able to cast the ballot, a vote for town supervisor, for county executive, for town board, etc. The opportunity is right in front of our faces. It just requires a date change, and we're not reinventing the wheel. We don't have to, have wishful thinking here that, we hope that this is going to happen, that the turnout is going to dramatically increase. Nevada has done it. A number of cities from Texas to California to the Carolinas have done it. And in every single instance, turnout in local races dramatically, I'm talking double, triple, increases when they move from an odd year to an even year election cycle. We'll have to leave it there. State Senator James Skoufis, thank you so much for coming on this week. Thanks for having me. Well, flu season is here, plus there's a COVID to watch out for, something called RSV. I'm sure you've heard of that. When we come back, we'll hear from an associate professor at UAlbany on the health risks to you and the family, and share the best ways to keep everybody safe.
Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray in Albany. As the winter weather pushes more people indoors, many states are now reporting a rise in respiratory illnesses that are spreading around the country. Right now, 10 states, plus New York City and Puerto Rico, reporting high or very high activity for patients with respiratory illnesses in the doctor's offices or showing up to our emergency rooms. Symptoms ranging from fever and a cough or sore throat from any respiratory disease, including the flu, COVID, the common cold, and RSV. Joining us now to give us additional insight on the winter health outlook, Associate Professor at UAlbany's School of Public Health, Tomoko Udo. Tomoko, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
We've got a lot on our plate this year. I feel like we got RSV, the flu is going to always be around. COVID's another issue. Common cold's another issue. Let me kind of break them down. RSV, I feel like that has not gotten a lot of talk until this year. What exactly is that, so people understand what it is? Respiratory, right?
It's just a respiratory virus infection that's been around, but for some reasons, it's been very common and going around, particularly with the kids who are, vulnerable to get respiratory infection and hospitalization. The increase in pediatric hospitalization.
Is this one of those ones the kids get from touching the same toy at daycare, or is it like they got to cough at each other to get it?
It's both,
Yeah.
I would assume. Yep.
Got you. And how dangerous is it? Is it another one of these ones where if you're a senior or you've got some compromised issues going on with your health, you don't want to get RSV and along those lines?
Yes, any of the disease respiratory virus, anyone with a compromised immunocompromised individual is more susceptible to get really sick, and so you want to avoid as much as you can. But this respiratory virus in particular right now is in use because it's more cases in the pediatric population.
Right. And there are vaccines for this, right? If people want to.
Yes, that came out, and it should be available.
Got you. Let's shift a little bit to COVID. Still around, obviously, right? But not, thank God, not where we were a couple of years ago.
Yes. So the cases are definitely not as bad as 2021, January 2021, that was the worst case. If you look at the data, that was the worst case of hospitalization cases and so on. It's not even close to that.
Got you. I know during COVID, when we were all masked up and kind of not congregating, it seemed like the flu numbers just dropped off a cliff. They went away. It kind of proved the point that when we do get together, and we're sort of all together in close spaces, it does encourage all these viruses and things to kind of spread, right?
Yes, definitely. It's just the nature of the virus, respiratory virus, where, if you keep talking to people closely, then if someone's sick and, COVID and flu both, there are cases where people may not experience any symptoms and not know, and it's spread and so on. And so when that happens, then definitely in a congregated setting, it's easy to spread.
We forget because we were sort of removed from it now by a year or two, but that was one of the big issues with COVID, right? You could be infected and look and sound and just feel fine, but you've got this and you're chatting with everybody and not realizing you're helping spread.
That is true. But the reason why we're not seeing as many cases right now is because over the past few years, definitely more people are getting vaccinated, but a lot of people were exposed and got sick from COVID. And so at the population level, many people do have enough, immune system response to not get so sick or don't feel any symptoms.
As a teacher, what's your position if a student asks you, like, should I be getting all these shots or should I wait? I mean, where do you kind of land on that stuff? Listen to your own personal doctor, or?
So as a public health person, my recommendation obviously is to get vaccinated for anything you can, and then I do recommend booster shots if you haven't gotten one, because this year they came out with a new version that covers the new variants.
Right.
And also, as we know, with the flu and COVID, for these reasons, the virus change itself,
Right.
it's important to get updated vaccine so that you protect from the new variants. So that's the reason why we need to get vaccinated. For the flu, recommendation has been every year you should get one, particularly if you're immunocompromised or getting old and your immune system not work as well.
Right. I've literally been part of these conversations where somebody says, I say, when you're looking at the new COVID shot, they say, oh no, I got the 2, then I got the booster 6 months or 9 months later. I'm sure I've got antibodies. I'm sure I'm good now. I think I had COVID a year ago. I got those antibodies left over, so you store them in your earlobes or something. Where do you stand on that? Do those antibodies kind of go away or weaken, and does a booster kind of recharge you?
Right, the booster. So again, because the virus evolve all the time, sometimes they might slip your system, and that's the reason why you may get sick even though you got COVID. This is not one of those viruses where once you get it, you're set. It keeps changing the way it works into your body, and your body may not be able to recognize the virus when it comes in because it changes itself. Or maybe the way that it entered, or the strength of the virus to be able to get into your cell maybe change. And so that's another reason why it's important to get updated vaccine so that your immune system can respond appropriately when it's exposed to the virus.
As we head into the winter months, beyond getting vaccinated, are there other things people should be doing or thinking about doing? And I mean, I would think the bottom line, there's an old saying, crawl in before you call in at work. Be a hero for the boss and go in, but it's just not a smart idea.
I think a lot of workplaces now recognize that people should stay home, and I hope that a lot of workplaces still allow a worker to work remotely if possible. And I understand that not everybody have that option. In that case, maybe you can wear a mask because that is definitely helpful. That is not perfect. I wouldn't say that that's going to prevent everyone from getting it, but it does help. And so be considerate of others and yourself, and wear a mask if you feel like you don't want to give it to people and you don't have any other choice but going to those places.
Last question, as somebody who works in public health, are you encouraged where we're at right now in terms of education out there, and or the recommendations or the advice you'd give people, in terms of coming out of COVID? I feel like we all had to become experts. Unfortunately, some of us went on Google and became experts and started commenting on public sites, which is never a good idea. But any advice you give us as we head towards this another season of this stuff?
So definitely, do what you feel right. But the evidence is very clear that the vaccination and washing hands, those basic preventive measures work, not only from you not getting sick, but also spread the virus. We don't do universal masking recommendations so on anymore because we're at the stage where we understand the virus is going to here to stay, and it's impossible to keep everyone do that all the time. But for example, holiday seasons, if you know that you're going to see family member who may be susceptible to getting really sick from COVID or flu or any other thing, be considerate and make sure you extra step to not exposed to those individuals. If you're sick, try not to go and meet with people. Those basic things still are important. And in terms of information, I understand that there are a lot of information out there. It's important to make sure that the source that you're getting the information from, is it really credible, and make sure that you check the original source of the information and listen to public health officials because they do know what's best for the population.
They do this for a living, yeah. Tomoko Udo, Associate Professor at UAlbany, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
We do appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Working professionals calling on the governor to sign legislation to ban non-compete agreements. When we come back, we'll hear from both sides on this important issue. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Bray in Albany. Advocates from many different job fields taking to the Capitol this week, calling for the governor to sign a law that would ban non-compete agreements here in New York State. Now, these contractual agreements impact a wide variety of industries, from fast food workers to medical professionals. These agreements set limits on how soon after leaving one job you can apply for another one. Supporters of the ban argue that they make it hard for employees to leave their jobs for a better opportunity. However, others argue these agreements protect the legal rights of the companies.
So the worker is left with only bad decisions. You can pack up and move to a different geographic area. You can find a brand new job in a brand new field, or you can just stay with the current employer.
President Biden has also come out in support of ending these non-compete agreements. The governor has said that she is reviewing the legislation. Stick around. We'll be back with a look at the week ahead in just a bit. If you have a comment or story idea, please let us know about it. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also find us on X, formerly known as Twitter. We are at WTEN. Finally, on Empire State Weekly, we are keeping a close eye on the recent findings from the Office of the Inspector General regarding defects in the drug testing procedures within the state prisons. Report reveals that the tests used by the Department of Corrections to detect the presence of contraband were only intended to be used as a first step in detecting drugs, but were being used for disciplinary measures instead. Report highlights issues dating back to 2016. We're going to continue to keep a close watch on this report and any further developments you may care about. For now, for all of us here at Empire State Weekly, I'm John Gray in Albany. We'll see you right here next week. And a reminder, don't forget you can watch Empire State Weekly all over New York State. Here's a full schedule of Empire State Weekly on 10 TV stations across the great state of New York.